This is the story of arrogance colliding with honor. A story of a racist cop who thought he was untouchable, and the decorated black Navy SEAL who refused to bow. Take a moment to subscribe to True Crime Uncovered for more chilling stories. The defendant's name was Lieutenant Commander Marcus Hale, 41 years old, tall, broad-shouldered, and battle-tested. His clean-cut fade and chiseled jawline made him look every inch the soldier he was. Hale wasn't just any soldier. He was a Navy SEAL with multiple deployments in the Middle East and Africa. He had medals pinned to his chest that most men only read about in history books. But despite his sacrifice, despite the years he gave to his country, he found himself sitting inside a civilian courtroom, facing accusations that he never imagined would land him here. On the other side of the room sat Sergeant Thomas Rourke of the Metro Police Department. Stocky, red-faced, with thinning blonde hair and a reputation for hostility. Rourke wasn't on trial that day, he was a witness. But anyone who knew the dynamics of this case understood one thing. Rourke despised Hale. It wasn't just personal. It was racial. Rourke had been overheard more than once calling Hale boy in the courthouse halls, muttering slurs under his breath, and sneering whenever Hale walked past. The case itself was complicated but rooted in something simple. An off-duty altercation. Months earlier, Hale had been driving home from base when Rourke pulled him over. Rourke claimed Hale had been driving suspiciously in his own neighborhood. Dashcam footage later revealed Hale had done nothing wrong. When Hale politely asked why he was being stopped, Rourke allegedly told him, "You don't belong here." A shouting match escalated. Witnesses claimed Rourke shoved Hale against his car, tried to cuff him, and when Hale resisted, a full scuffle broke out. Hale defended himself, disarmed Rourke, and held him down until backup arrived. The media had a field day. The story of a black Navy SEAL taking down a white cop in a suburban neighborhood ripped through the headlines. Civil rights groups praised Hale for standing his ground. Police unions rallied behind Rourke, insisting he had been assaulted by a dangerous suspect. And so, the case ended up here, in a tense courtroom, where the fate of both men's reputations hung in the balance. The morning dragged on with procedural motions. Lawyers argued over admissibility of video evidence. The judge, an aging white man named Harold Whitmore, rubbed his temples as though the entire case was a burden he didn't want. The gallery was packed with onlookers. Activists, reporters, even Hale's family who sat nervously in the second row. His wife, Alicia, clutched a rosary, her eyes darting back and forth between her husband and the officers seated along the wall. When Sergeant Rourke was called to the stand, the atmosphere shifted. He swaggered to the witness chair, puffing his chest out, glaring directly at Hale as though daring him to look away. The prosecutor asked him to recount the night of the traffic stop. Predictably, Rourke painted himself as the victim. He claimed Hale had been erratic, aggressive, and threatening. He told the jury Hale lunged at him without provocation. He insisted Hale nearly killed him before backup arrived. But under cross-examination, Hale's defense attorney shredded Rourke's testimony. The dashcam footage played on a large monitor, showing a calm Hale, hands visible, asking simple questions. The jury leaned forward as the audio captured Rourke telling Hale, "You people don't belong in this neighborhood after dark." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Rourke shifted in his seat, sweat beading on his forehead. The footage continued, showing Rourke initiating the first shove. The defense attorney paused the video and turned toward the jury. "Does that look like an aggressive suspect? Or a man defending himself from unlawful force?" The courtroom murmured. For a moment, it seemed like Hale's honor was finally being restored. But then, everything changed. During a recess, as the judge exited the bench and lawyers shuffled papers, Rourke stood abruptly from the witness stand. He muttered something under his breath, something vile and racially charged that echoed across the room. Hale, seated at the defense table, kept his composure. He didn't flinch. He didn't respond. But that restraint only seemed to enrage Rourke further. In an instant, Rourke stormed across the courtroom floor. His boots clapped against the tile as he closed the distance between himself and Hale. The bailiff shouted, "Sergeant, stand down!" But Rourke didn't listen. With fury in his eyes, he lunged, slamming his fist directly into Hale's face. The room exploded in chaos. Gasps, screams, chairs scraping the floor. Hale toppled backward, clutching his jaw, blood trickling from his lip. The defense attorney stumbled out of the way. The bailiff grabbed Rourke by the shoulders, but Rourke was a raging bull. He kept shouting, spitting slurs, trying to climb over the table to get at Hale. The judge banged his gavel furiously, shouting, "Order! Order in the court!" But there was no order anymore. Reporters scrambled for cover. Spectators pulled out their phones, recording the shocking scene. Alicia cried out, "Marcus!" as deputies swarmed the melee. Hale, still seated, wiped the blood from his mouth. And that's when he made a decision. Slowly, deliberately, he stood up. The courtroom hushed. Even Rourke froze for a second, realizing the gravity of what he'd just done. Hale wasn't just a defendant anymore. He was a warrior under attack. His calm, controlled presence filled the room. He didn't strike back. He didn't throw a single punch. He simply stood tall, shoulders squared, as if daring the world to see who he really was. But outside the courthouse, word was already spreading. Calls had gone out to the Navy, to Hale's commanding officers. Within minutes, a convoy of black SUVs screeched to a halt outside the courthouse steps. The doors swung open, and out poured military police in full tactical gear. Helmets, body armor, rifles slung across their chests. Their boots thundered up the marble staircase. Reporters outside shouted questions, cameras flashing as the soldiers marched toward the entrance. Inside, the heavy wooden doors burst open. Military police stormed in, their presence overwhelming the local deputies. The crowd gasped as the soldiers fanned out, securing the perimeter, barking commands. "Stand back! Clear the aisle!" The courthouse was no longer just a civilian space. It had become a battlefield of authority. Their commander, a stern-faced major with steel-gray eyes, stepped forward. His voice cut through the chaos. "Lieutenant Commander Hale, you are under the protection of the United States Navy. You will not be further harmed." The courtroom went silent. Even Rourke's face went pale. The major turned toward the judge. "Your Honor, this man is a decorated officer of the United States military. He is entitled to due process without fear of physical attack. We will not stand by while our service members are assaulted in your court." Judge Whitmore, visibly shaken, stammered, "Major, this is highly irregular. This is a civilian proceeding." The major didn't flinch. "With all due respect, sir, when one of our own is attacked by a law enforcement officer inside your courtroom, it becomes our proceeding as well." The gallery erupted with applause. Civil rights activists shouted, "Protect him!" The sound of chanting began to swell from outside the courthouse. Crowds had gathered, waving flags, holding signs, demanding justice. Rourke, still restrained by deputies, screamed, "This is my courtroom. He doesn't belong here." His words only sealed his fate. Cameras captured his rage, his mask torn away for the world to see. Hale, his lips still bleeding, stood tall beside the military police. He didn't gloat. He didn't cheer. He simply looked at his wife, gave her the faintest nod, and whispered, "It's going to be okay." The trial would continue, but the narrative had already shifted. No longer was Hale the defendant struggling to clear his name. He was now the symbol of a much larger fight, one about dignity, race, and the limits of unchecked authority. In the days that followed, footage of the attack went viral. News outlets replayed the moment Rourke lunged across the courtroom. Social media lit up with hashtags demanding accountability. The Navy released a statement praising Hale's service and condemning the violence against him. Police unions scrambled to distance themselves from Rourke. And when the jury finally returned its verdict, it was swift. Hale was acquitted of all charges. But the story didn't end there. Rourke was indicted for assault, misconduct, and civil rights violations. His career ended in disgrace. and Lieutenant Commander Marcus Hale returned to his unit. Not broken, not bitter, but more resolute than ever. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to True Crime Uncovered for me, intriguing true crime stories. Because sometimes, justice doesn't just happen in court. Sometimes, it storms through the doors in combat boots, demanding to be heard.